Hachette Audio presents Legends and Liars, the Duelists trilogy, Book 2. Written by Julia Knight. Read by Angèle Masters. Chapter 1. Vocho threw the dice and loudly cursed himself for a fool. Treble cat's eye, of course it was. And now he was down 100 Icaran bushels, or about 10 bulls in Reyes money. Kacha stood the other side of the gaming table, clothed, after something of an argument, in an Icaran dress in the latest fashion, a silky green sheath with a split up to the thigh. Vocho had been surprised to discover his sister actually had legs, and precarious heels that made her wobble and look far more fragile than her solid frame would usually suggest. The puffed sleeves covered the fact she wasn't a soft noblewoman, and that her wrists and forearms were laced with muscles and striped with old scars. Her hair had been carefully coiffed, with much swearing, to hide the scar under her eye. No sword, which had irked her the most. She'd sulked in the shadows behind the avid-eyed men and women who'd just won on betting Vocho would lose. But now Kacha raised an eyebrow and smirked. The dice were, naturally, rigged. Not that he tampered with them, oh no. Conduct unbecoming to a master of the dueling guild and all that. Although, not being a member of the guild any longer, he tended to forget that bit. It was just no fun cheating people out of their hard-earned, or, as was the case in this particular den of iniquity, hard-inherited cash. So he hadn't rigged the dice, but someone certainly had. At least they were dry in here, as opposed to highway robbery, which had mostly involved him being wet and cold. They had to do something for money. Supplies were dangerously low. Besides, he had a plan. A slight, dark-haired man with small, sharp eyes and a nose that looked like it had been thumped one too many times swept Vocho's money off the table and into his purse, which was already heavy. "Not lucky with the dice tonight, are you?" he said in Icaran, a language Vocho could just about communicate in if he concentrated. "Perhaps you care to try something else?" Vocho feigned nonchalance with an airy wave of his hand, as though the money hadn't been most of what they had left. "Such as?" The dark-haired man, his name had never been offered, though mostly he was called Bear for some unmentioned reason, cocked his head on one side and looked Vocho up and down, took in the slightly worn finery, the hat on the table with its jaunty if tattered feather, the mud-stained boots that had once been polished to a high shine but were now dull and cracked with...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?